Okay, let's just find out early, John, so you don't end up wasting your time. Okay? Now, why don't salespeople talk about money? It's because they're uncomfortable with it. Most salespeople are uncomfortable talking about the subject of money. It's just not a natural kind of thing for them. They have been programmed not to talk about money, and so forth and so on. Number 7. Salespeople don't understand and know how to communicate to the different buying styles. Personality types, if you will. All of you know that there are different personalities out there. There's the introvert, there's the extrovert. Well, you deal with them differently. There are 2 different kinds of introverts, there are 2 different kinds of extroverts. You deal with them differently. And in fact, there are 4 different types of personalities. And there are subsets of those types that can be a combination of as many as 264 different combinations of those. There are 264 different combinations, but for our purposes, we just basically talk about 4 of them. The first one is called a driver or a competitive. This is a high-charging, cut-to-the-chase type of individual. Donald Trump would be an example of a driver. Don't beat around the bush. Let's get right to it. Don't mince any words. Tell it like it is. You know, straight to the point. The second type is called an influencer or expressive. This would be, a driver, by the way, is an extrovert who primarily is task-oriented as opposed to people-oriented. Drivers do not dwell in the feeling realm. They deal in the task realm. Like, let's get shit done. I don't care how you feel. You know, that's irrelevant. Influencers are extroverts who are people-oriented as opposed to task-oriented. They like to mix and mingle. They have lots of friends. You know, they're very social. On a sales call that lasts an hour, they'll spend 55 minutes chit-chatting and 5 minutes talking about business. Influencers, these expressives, tend to talk too much. They go on and on and on and on. They take 20 minutes to say what they could say in 2. They're great networkers. Outgoing, gregarious, people like them, very likable people. Highest percentage of people in sales fall into this category as influencers. An example of an influencer would be somebody like, say, a Robin Williams, outgoing type. Then you have a supporter or an amiable, who are introverts and they're relationship oriented. A Mr. Rogers type character would be an amiable, low-key, introvert, relationship oriented, primarily motivated for service to others. You will find many of these supporters in professions like counseling, teaching, nursing, all the so-called helping professions, social work, etc. And then you have compliance or analyticals. These are your accountants, bankers, lawyers, those kinds of folks. Attention to detail, engineers, people like that. They're in the exacting professions, and their whole life revolves around spreadsheeting everything. They're the most difficult people to sell to. They take forever to make a decision. You want one as an accountant, but particularly if you are a driver or a amiable personality yourself, you'll find them very difficult. Well, any of those 3 types will find them difficult to deal with. I don't have many of those as clients because I don't have the patience for them. I'm like, forget how it works. Just do what I told you to do. Don't ask me why it works, and I don't have time for that. Just go do this. Trust me, it works, you know. But trying to explain that to folks. Okay, so those are the 4 different types. Do you recognize those? Do you know who those people are? How long do you have on a sales call to size somebody up and figure out which one of those are so you can adjust your communication style to connect with that person?
5 minutes.
Or less? Less. Yeah. Not much. And top performing salespeople seem to intuitively know how to do that. Seems to be an intuitive gift they have, to be able to figure that out without consciously being aware of what they do. Now, if you don't have that intuitive gift, you can still learn how to do that with training. And unconsciously slip into the other fellow's moccasins and communicate with them in a style that's consistent with how they communicate. That's how you connect with people and bond with people. If you're speaking with one of these drivers and they're just boom, 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 their whole style of communication is like that, and you're real low key and you want to articulate every word clearly and you want to process the information. I'm like, dude, hurry up. I want to snatch the words out of your mouth. Hurry up. Are you brain dead? Did your mother drop you on your head at an early age? What's the problem with you? Are you stupid? That's what I'm thinking. And I'm like, we're done. So if you happen to be one of these supporters, amiables, and you're kind of laid back in your style when you're dealing with a guy like Trump, you better ramp up your game. You better come to the table, meet him tit for tat, because that's the only thing he respects. Like a Joan Rivers did with Donald Trump. See that? Did any of y'all watch that? She was a freaking killer. She's like, you ain't firing me. Yeah, you're not firing me. Yeah, and she's like, screw you, except she didn't say screw you.
She's a driver.
Yeah, she's like, that ain't happening. That is not happening. We are not leaving here. Yeah, yeah. And she won, and she ended up winning. Okay? So, number 8. Salespeople tend to roll over and accept stalls and put-offs and think-it-overs. Never again accept a stall or put-off from your prospect. That's a courage issue. Have the courage to tell people that's not acceptable. If you need more information to make a decision, I'll be glad to give you more information. But you can't think it over. Now, you can't say that to them after you've given them a presentation and they want to think it over, because then it becomes adversarial. What you have to do is you have to diffuse that bomb before it goes off by having that conversation about, if I give you a presentation, there are 3 things that you can do. You can tell me yes, you can tell me no, but you can't tell me you want to think it over. Now, there's a way to say it. I'm just giving you the concept. Okay? The way you might say something like that would be, Robert, sounds like you have a problem, boom, boom, boom. This is the problems you've told me about, blah, blah, blah. This is how it's affecting you. This is how much money it's costing you. I understand that. And we talked about the solution to that problem would be somewhere in the ballpark of X, and you've said to me that you are committed to investing that money if you are convinced I can help you solve that problem. And I can go back and I can put together a customized solution to that problem for you and come back and go over it with you. I kind of sense that's kind of what you're wanting me to do at this point. Is that kind of where we are? He'll say yes. You say, okay, great. Let's talk about what's going to happen when I come back. There are 3 things that can happen when I come back, 2 of which are fine, 1's not. Obviously, when I come back, you can accept my recommendation and we can move forward with my suggested solutions to the issues you're talking about. And I promise you it will be within the budget we've talked about here today. It's going to be within the ballpark of what we talked about. You can tell me yes, which I hope you do, but I've been at this thing long enough to know you may not want to do that, which is okay. The second thing you can tell me is no, you don't want to do it. And while I'll be disappointed, that'll be okay. Because quite frankly, I got over being allergic to the word no years ago. The third thing you can do is you can tell me after I present everything to you that you want to keep my proposal and you want to study over it some. Robert, I can't do that. when I come back, I will not leave you my proposal. That's proprietary information that belongs to me. When you become a client of mine, then I will give it to you. But until you become a client, it's ours. So when I come back, are you going to be willing to give me a yes or no answer when I come back? I know that's different than how you normally do it. Probably no one's ever told you that before. But would you be willing to, after you've seen everything there is to see and heard everything there is to hear, are you going to be willing to tell me, yes, you want to go forward, or no, you don't? That's how you lay that out. And you have to have the courage and the backbone to be able to say that in a non-threatening way, but in a very firm kind of way too, with the perception that I'm okay if we don't get the business here. Now, that's hard to do when you need to make a sale. When you're 3 months behind on the mortgage payment and you're parking your car 3 blocks away so the repo man doesn't come get it, and that's where you are, reality, it's hard to have guts enough to say something like that. But until you have a guts enough to say that, you won't start making large bank deposits. Because what happens is they're buying you. They never met anybody that was that strong and had that much conviction about what it is they're doing. And if they have a need, a genuine need that you can fix, and they're willing to invest the money, and you've done all the stuff you're supposed to do up to that point right, then you will get that agreement from them. If you don't, then it's time to stop and deal with that, because you either resolve that one or the presentation never occurs. Because the last thing you want to do is go back and give a presentation only to have them come back and do that stall. And you know what you're doing, the analogy is you are taking all of the arrows out of their quiver by diffusing and taking all of their potential objections away, so they got nothing to shoot you with when you go back. You've already disarmed everything. You've resolved all those things up front. Does that make sense to you guys? So in effect, you're closing up front. The presentation is only designed to tell them what they've already made a decision to buy, which is they don't know what they've made a decision. They don't know what they're buying. They don't understand it. They don't even understand it when you present it to them and they become a customer of yours. How many people understand the complexities and all the ramifications and the nuances of what you sell them? They don't. They don't understand that. Do they understand insurance policy when they get it? They don't even know the difference between term and whole life, most of them. Much less, you know, what is it, waiver premium and blah, 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 blah. They don't understand any of that stuff. And you tell them all that stuff, and within 30, you know, less than 30 days after you tell them, they don't know beans. They can't even find a damn policy. And they're calling you for a duplicate policy because they don't even know where they put the thing. And the same thing with everything you sell. Doesn't matter what you sell, they don't understand all that. So you have to make a decision that once and for all, you're not going to let people give you stalls and put-offs. Number 9, this is a self-image issue. Salespeople see themselves as beggars and peddlers. They see themselves in a subservient role to the buyer. And everything they do and say comes across as subservient. Why would you want to do business as a buyer with somebody that you felt was inferior to you? Is that who you want to give your money to? Somebody who you have no respect for? Given the choice between 2 salespeople, one who communicates with you and appears on your level and is perfectly willing to walk away and gives you the impression they don't need your business, or one who seems to come across as a little bit needy, who would you rather do business with? You want to do business with people who have strength. You must be that person. Now, how do you become that person? You act like that person until you become that person. You assume that characteristic and act like that yourself. it's a little bit scary in the beginning because you may not have that confidence. But until you start acting confident, you won't become confident. This isn't something you can pick up by reading a book. You got to go out and step into that role and reinvent yourself and appear like an actor on stage that's not the real you. Because selling is really acting. When you get up in the morning, whatever suit of clothes you put on, that's your game uniform. And it's showtime or it's time to play the game. And it doesn't matter who you naturally are, your person, you know, who you are, leave that person at home, because that person probably is not what you need to be in order to make money. You got to step into the role to be something different than who you are. Because not too many people want to do business with you, the real you. Okay? Now here's the interesting part about that. When you start doing that, that becomes the new you, the real you. Human beings are the only creatures on earth, well, that I guess one cell amoebas can change their shape and all that stuff, but human beings are the only creature that can totally reinvent themselves. Bill Clinton's a perfect example of that. God reinvented himself all the time. He reinvented himself so fast people couldn't keep up with him. He never got in any trouble. He never got in any permanent trouble, did he? Still not getting in any trouble. Still doing the same old stuff. Yeah? Number 10, they shoot from the hip. They just saddle up and ride in all directions at the same time with no system or no plan. Every business has a system for doing business. In accounting, they have double entry bookkeeping. In engineering, they have certain ways of doing things. I mean, when they built this building, they had a blueprint that was detailed all the way down to where every light fixture was going to be and where every outlet in the building was going to be. It's all detailed out. When you ask a salesperson, what is your selling system? They're like, huh? I just like people. I want to go help people. Well, you can then go get in social work, okay? Salespeople don't have systems for nothing. They don't have marketing systems. They don't have prospecting systems. They don't have selling systems. They don't have any systems. Now, system, the benefit of having a system is it is a predictable way to determine the outcome of the future, because you know from doing things in a certain way, if you do things in a certain way, there are predictable outcomes. Having a system gives you a repeatable process to use. Having a system provides you feedback so that you can tweak the system and make changes as necessary. Provides you a point to go back and debrief. Did the train get off the track in the uncovery phase? Did the train get off the track in the beginning because we didn't bond? We didn't have enough credibility on the front end? Where did the train get off the track? And it's a debriefing process that you can use, just like a flight debrief. You know, Blue Angels will fly for 45 minutes and then they'll debrief for several hours. Salespeople don't debrief nothing. They don't even think about what happened. They're just on to the next call. They hadn't even thought about why it went wrong on the last call because they're too busy headed to the next call where they're going to do exactly the same thing because they hadn't even thought about what they did. And interesting story about systems. True story. When our kids were in elementary school, our older daughter Amy was in 3rd grade. Caroline, the younger one, was in first grade. Charlene carpooled had 2 other kids, Stephen and Austin. Both Stephen and Austin were in kindergarten. So one day Charlene picks up Stephen and Austin. Amy was in the front seat with Charlene, and the minivan in the back was Caroline and Stephen, and then Austin. They went to pick up Austin, and Austin got into the minivan. Austin was a pretty good-sized kid for her age, big old head of red hair. She was all puffed up. She was all bent out of shape. She got in the car, and she said, when I grow up, I'm going to get me a mama dog, and she's going to have a whole bunch of puppies, and I'm going to keep every one of them. She was all bent out of shape because her mom and dad wouldn't let her have a dog. So Caroline sat beside her, and Caroline said, now Austin's about half again as big as Caroline. If any of you know Caroline, she's a little tiny thing. Caroline said, Austin, that's not the way it works. If you want to have puppies, you need to have a mama dog and a daddy dog. Because dogs have a system for making puppies. Just like mamas and daddies have a system for making babies. And Charlene's driving, and she's like, oh, she's like, hurry up and let's get to school here. She's like white knuckling the steering wheel, holding it so hard. So about that time saved, she whips into the parking lot of the school and slides open the minivan door, and the kids pile out and go into school. Charlene's like, whew. Boy, I don't know what was coming next out of her mouth. So that afternoon, Charlene picks them up. Again, Amy in the front and Caroline in the back with Austin and Stephen. And Charlene drops off Stephen and then drops off Austin. Charlene got home with Caroline and she said, Caroline, that was very diplomatic and very tactful the way that you said to Austin that dogs have a system for making puppies. She said, I'm just wondering, how did you come up with the word system? And Caroline said, well, Mama, you know, Austin is a kindergartner, and I didn't know if she knew dogs sexed. And she said, and in fact, I'm not sure if she knows people sex. Now, that's a system. Works every time, predictable results, and you know when it went wrong. So you want to have a system for selling, and the new school selling process is a system that will work every time in the sense of when you employ it properly, you either make a sale, or if you don't make a sale, you're able to go back and figure out why you didn't make the sale. And if you didn't make the sale, it was for any number of reasons. Could be they didn't really have a commitment, or they didn't have money, or you messed it up somewhere along the way. But in any event, it's predictable, and you want to operate with a system, because operating with a system is much better than just flying by the seat of your pants. And in studies we've done, as much as 85% of everybody selling everything do not have systems. Primarily because they're outgoing personalities. They just want to visit with people. And they go about selling. It's all about personality. They just want to go out and talk to people. That'll get you some results, but it won't get you near the results as if you had a systematic process that you use over and over again. And the good part about that is it becomes automatic. You don't have to think about it anymore. You know B follows A and C follows B, and you don't get to D before you've done A and B properly. And I'm going to show you in written form a system in a little bit, actually, that you give a prospect a written sheet that says this is what we're going to do in the form of an agenda. These are the points that we're going to cover, and this is the order in which we're going to cover them, and we're not going to talk about number 4 until we talk about 1, 2, and 3. And if the prospect wants to jump to number 4, which is money, we're going to say, time out, wait a minute. We hadn't even covered 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if I can help you. Why we need to talk about money? Because I don't even know what kind of problems you have, and even if it was free, I don't know if I can help you. So can we back up and talk about number 2 and 3 before we come to 4? And if we get far enough along, I'll be glad to talk about that, but we're not there yet. Helps you stay on track, okay? So those are the 10 cardinal sins of selling. So how many of them are you committing? Or let me phrase it a different way. Which one of those is your big